Hey, it's Justin the House Guy. And have you noticed something's changing in Greenville real estate? Just a few years ago, in 2022, I might see 6 or 7, even 8 properties in a given month going through foreclosure. But come to 2026, and I'm seeing more like 20, 25, or 30 homes a month in the foreclosure process. And Greenville's not the only place where this is happening. Nationally, foreclosure activity is increased again during the first half of 2026. In South Carolina, we're now sitting near the very top of the foreclosure market. But before anyone hears that and says, oh no, it's 2008 all over again, well, that's not what I'm saying. What I want to show is actually what the numbers mean and why foreclosures were unusually low for several years. And then I'm going to show you one Greenville property that I think perfectly illustrates what's changing in this marketplace. So let's start here at home. When I go back several years and look at foreclosure activity, in Greenville, there simply weren't very many homes going through that process. And in 2022, I was accustomed to seeing 6 to 8 homes in a given month. Compare that to 2026, where we're seeing 25 to 30 homes in a given month. So 2022, 6 to 8 homes a month. 2026, 25 to 30. Now I want to be very careful with this comparison because there are several ways foreclosure activity can be measured. One way is through court filings or notices on default or scheduled auctions or bank-owned properties or even the actual foreclosures hitting the MLS. So we're going to distinguish between those numbers as we go. But whatever measurement you use, there's clearly more foreclosure activity today than there were during the COVID and post-COVID eras. And there's a very good reason for that. When COVID hit in 2020, the federal government introduced extraordinary protections for homeowners. And for mortgages backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, these guys suspended most single-family foreclosures. And those foreclosure protections were repeatedly extended through July 31st, 2021. Now, just because it's August 1st of 2021 doesn't mean the world shifted. No, borrowers were able to receive extensive mortgage forbearances. In some cases, Fannie and Freddie allowed borrowers that were affected by COVID to receive up to 18 months of forbearance. Additionally, the CFPB put protections that generally prevented servicers from immediately beginning the foreclosure process so that it would protect the borrowers, through 2021. Think about what that did to foreclosure statistics. People didn't suddenly stop having financial problems, and just the normal foreclosure pipeline was effectively interrupted. And that's why comparing today's foreclosure numbers with 2021 or 2022 without explaining COVID can be a little bit misleading. Now fast forward to 2026. Adam just released its mid-year foreclosure report here in July. During the first 6 months of 2026, there were 227,000 foreclosure filings. But here's the important number. That number is 21% higher than it was in 2025. And it's 28% higher than it was 2 years earlier. Nationally, we're clearly seeing an upward trend of foreclosures. But let's bring it home to South Carolina. During the first 6 months of 2026, South Carolina saw 6,419 properties with foreclosure filings. That's approximately 32% higher than the first half of 2025 and 40% higher than 2 years prior. South Carolina had approximately 1 foreclosure filing for 381 housings. That gave South Carolina the second highest foreclosure rate in the United States, second only to Florida, who loves to hold down that number 1 position. During the first quarter of 2026 alone, South Carolina actually had the highest foreclosure rate in the entire country, 1 foreclosure for approximately every 720 homes. Not California, not Nevada, not Florida. South Carolina was number 1. Again, that doesn't mean that South Carolina had the largest raw numbers of foreclosures. It means relative to the number of housing units, South Carolina had the highest rate during Q2 of 2026. That's an important distinction. Now let's bring it real close to home, Greenville. There's a property at 2501 Poinsett Highway, and I think this property gives a fascinating real-world example of what can happen when high-cost financing meets a market that stops appreciating at a rates investors expect. You see, the public record shows that this property was sold for $130,000 in May of 2022. The property was subsequently extensively remodeled, and eventually the owner tried to sell it July of 2024. They put the property on the market for $359,000, then $350,000. Then the property came off the market. Then it went back on in April of 2025. When it went back on the market, they reduced it to $330,000 and then reduced it to $310,000. And then it came off the market again and came back on the market in 2026 for $315,000 and eventually reduced to $300,000. In July of this year, it came off the market for the last time, and it's going to be going to foreclosure in September of 2026. Now, here's where financing becomes extremely important. The later documents that I reviewed shows that approximately $205,000 was borrowed on the property at an 11% interest rate, with interest-only payments required for the loan. At 11%, $205,000 generates a little over $22,500 a year in interest. Divide that by 12, $1,880 a month. And that's not including costs of keeping up with the home, maintenance on the home, electricity, utilities, all of that. That's on top of your holding cost. $1,880 every month. And you're not even reducing the principal balance on the $205,000 loan. So you hold that loan for a year, $22,500. 2 years, $45,000. 3 years, $67,000. You get what I'm saying? It's an expensive cost of ownership and holding this property. This is where leverage becomes brutal. Brutal, I tell you. Because when the property is appreciating at 10, 15%, or 18% in a year, investors can make mistakes and the market kind of rescues them. What happens when properties don't sell? What happens when the interest meter doesn't stop running? And that's what I think people need to understand about the Greenville market today. I don't think the story is simply foreclosures are rising. No, I think the bigger picture here is that the market has changed. During 2020, 2021, and even portions of 2022, inventory was extremely low. Interest rates were relatively low. Prices were moving up quickly. And borrowers had unprecedented foreclosure protections. Today, all those conditions are gone. We're in an environment where homes are sitting on the market. Buyers have more negotiating power, and financing is much more expensive. And a homeowner or an investor can't necessarily count on rapidly rising prices to bail them out of a bad decision. Now here's the question someone's inevitably going to ask. Are you saying another 2008 housing crash is coming? No. Enormous differences between today's housing market and the market back then. What I'm saying is that foreclosure activity is still influenced by the unusually low foreclosure environment created during COVID. Even Adam describes the current market trends as gradually returning to a more typical foreclosure patterns, despite year-over-year increases that we've been seeing. So I wouldn't look at these numbers and scream, housing crash. But I necessarily wouldn't ignore them either. You see, in South Carolina, having the highest foreclosure rate in the country during the Q2 of 2026, that's something worth paying attention to. And that's why we're going to continue to watch the numbers here in Greenville. Not just home prices, not just interest rates. We're going to watch foreclosures. We're going to watch inventory levels. We're going to watch days on market, price reductions. And ultimately, the question is, what are sellers actually accepting when they get the home to the closing table? Because those numbers tell us the true picture of what's happening in the Greenville housing market. If you're buying or selling or interested in Greenville and you want more numbers without the national media spin, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and as always, it's Justin, the house guy. I'll see you on the next one.